The second page of this value packet, I'm going to show you how to lay it out, and then I'll show you how to go through each of these sections. There's 3 things I need to do. The first section says create your own value scale from lightest to darkest, and there's 6 spaces. So I'm going to go over to my sketchbook, divide my paper up into 3 spaces because we've got kind of 3 main things we need to do on the worksheet here. So I'm going to do my value scale up here. I'm going to do my 5 shapes in the middle, and I'm going to do my tints and shades at the bottom. So at the top, I'm going to make this 6 square value scale. Give yourself 6 boxes, and we're going to go darkest to lightest. And the way I would do this is I would start down at my darkest with my pencil on its side. I can use hatching or cross hatching, and then I'm going to come back and try to work up this shade a little bit darker. Here I can try to make this a little bit lighter. This very last box I'm going to be able to leave blank because it's my lightest one. So the second to the last box, I'm probably going to want to use some lines that are gentle on the paper and spread apart like that. And then I'm going to start working back towards my darker one. Sometimes if you kind of squint and see if your values are too close to each other or not, like these 2 look really similar to me when I squint. So I'm going to make this one just a little bit darker. So now I can see a difference between these 2. Now these 2 and these 2 look the same. So I need to darken everything up because I can see a difference between this one and this one. Kind of crossing my eyes, I can see a difference between this one and this one. And this is where I start to lose my difference. So I'm going to make this one just a little bit darker again. And I'm using my pencil on its side. Okay, now those 2 look pretty different. See when I squint that they're, if you want to use your finger to blend things down like that a little bit, you certainly can. Okay, and I'm going to keep working towards my dark. So there's 2 ways I can get darker values. I can use lines that are closer together. I would start with this one, by using the lines that are closer together, and save the pressing harder for the end. I am kind of getting to that pressing harder step for these last 2 darkest boxes. The very last one is going to be probably as dark as I can get my pencil to go, maybe even from 2 different directions. Now you can do the same idea with colored pencils, oil pastels, or with chalk, and we'll practice those a little bit later, but we're just trying it with pencil for now. And then you can use your finger to kind of squish it out if you want. When I look at these 2, they kind of look a little bit too similar still, so that means I'm going to work some of these boxes a little bit darker. Just putting another gentle layer over the top, push them a little darker. I can use my finger to kind of smush that out again. Push this one just a little bit darker, and then I can bring just a really light layer through here and make this first box just a little bit darker. Now this box looks almost darker than this box, so I'm going to push this one a little bit more, push this one a little bit more. And so being able to find these different values is really a process of building up those layers. And it takes a little bit of time. I'm sure I'm going to speed this video up, but this will probably take you a good 5 to 15 minutes to get a solid looking value scale. Okay, so that's how I do part 1. The very top, I've got these 5 shapes with these highlights coming from 5 different directions. So on my sketchbook page, I'm just going to copy these shapes. I've got my circle with an arrow telling me where the highlight's coming from. I've got a pyramid, an arrow telling me where my highlight's coming from. I've got a cube, and then I've got a cylinder and a cone. And then their arrows where their highlights are coming from. And then the directions say to shade the shapes using 5 different shading techniques. The arrows point to the highlighted area. And so those 5 different shading techniques are the ones they're talking about on the bottom of the first page here. The parallel lines, so the hatching, the cross hatching, the stippling, the circular scribbles, and the blending. And it doesn't matter which one you do on which, label what you're doing on each one so that you can keep track of what you're supposed to be doing. And so hatching, I'm just going to start this way and work that way with the light coming from here, so that means this is going to be my dark side, my shadow side. Hatching is just lines that follow the shape of the object. Okay, so I can start in with a layer like that. Second layer in, that's kind of pulling more towards the side because this is my highlight, so this is where it should be my lightest spot here. Pull a little more towards the bottom, and then I'm probably going to do like a third and a fourth layer of just these parallel lines, so they're not necessarily straight. Parallel means that they're matching my bottom edge. This bottom edge is rounded, so my hatching lines are kind of rounded, and that's how my hatching one's going to look. If I want to get some more good practice in, I can make a shadow behind it. If the light is coming from here, the shadow is going to be coming out the back here. We're just going to take it straight back like that. It would be cone shaped because our shadows are the same shape as the object we are shading, and then I could use some hatching to make my shadow. Okay, so that's hatching. Moving down to cross hatching, here's my highlight, so that means over here, this side's going to be my darkest side. I'm going to draw my shadow right away. I'm going to match the shape of my object and move away from my light source. And then hatching is still parallel lines that match the shape of our object. I usually take them down about halfway across my object. I'm doing a couple layers of them, a couple on top even. And then cross hatching, that means that my second set of lines is going to go across my first set. So I can go vertical on this one. You can see as I start to add that second set of lines, my object starts to get darker. Back here on the shadowed side, I'm adding a lot of lines close together. And as I move towards the light side, I'm making those lines farther apart and having less of them. And then I can use cross hatching down at my shadow. I can make my lines going parallel one direction and then across the other direction. Okay, so that's what cross hatching would look like. Moving over to the scribbles, here's my highlight or my light source. So this is going to be the brightest area. Back here is going to be the shadow side. This right here is going to be the darkest side. Then there'll be some sort of a shadow coming out the back side here. That shadow will be square shaped because my object is square shaped. And then again, scribbles, it's just little circles. They call it circular scribbles on the front page. It's just little scribbles that I'm using to fill my shadow. I would start with your darkest space so that you can have some practice kind of getting them under control and layering them. And then as they get lighter, I'm going to want to make them bigger, and I want to press less hard with my pencil so that I can see that change in value, that change in shadow. Stippling, this one right here is small dot. Here's my highlight, so this is going to be the brightest side here. That means back here is going to be my darkest side. And my shadow shape is going to match the shape of my object. When I'm doing my darkest spaces, I tend to just make a bunch of little dots that are overlapping each other to fill in that space. And then as I work towards my lighter space up here, I'm going to have less stipples. They're going to be gentler and farther apart. Back here on my shadow side, there's going to be more, and they're going to be closer together. I can keep layering them on top of each other, but I get that nice dark side of my shadow. And then my last type of shading is blending. Says an area shaded in, then blended out to the light area. Here's my highlight. That means that this area here is going to be the lightest area of my circle or my sphere. And as I move back here is going to be the darkest area or the shadow. And then I'm going to have a shadow that comes out the back side of it that matches the shape of my object. When I do blending, I like to use hatching or cross hatching. So I'm matching the shape of my object. I'm using these rounded lines that are darker on the shadowed side and closer together, and then get lighter and farther apart as I head towards my highlight. And then I can use my finger or a paper towel, or if you have a blending stick at home, I want to start from the shadow side and push that pigment, push that graphite towards my highlight. I can use my eraser a little bit too if I need it, and that sphere should look pretty 3D. And then same thing down with my shadow. My shadow I can make pretty dark, use cross hatching in my shadow, and then still use my finger to blend it down. And that's how a blended shadow would look. So that's how I do this center space in my sketchbook. Now our very last space here says shade the picture, add 5 different values, identify tints and shades by placing T's and S in all the dark and light areas, okay? And so you can come up with your own picture, or you can just copy the picture that's here. I'm just going to copy the picture that's there. I think I'm going to give myself a sun so that I have a light source. And so if I go in and shade this, I can still use any of the shading strategies that we just practiced. I think I'm going to color my hills up front or shade my hills up front fairly dark. That makes sense because if you remember from last week in our space packet, things that are in the foreground, things that are up front, are going to be darkest, and our image is going to get lighter as we move back in space. So then I'm going to use some sort of different shading for my mountains back here. I'm making my flower darker up front because it is in the foreground, so that's following that space packet. I'm kind of coloring some darker edges of my flower and leaves to kind of give them a shadow. Darken up the edges of my mountains, or I mean my hills, so that they look like they're in front of my mountains. My mountains are back here. I think I'm going to shade this edge of my mountain back there because he's away from the sun. This edge in here is away from the sun, so I'm going to make it a little bit darker. And this whole mountain's away from the sun, so he's going to be a little bit darker. And I think that will work. These are a highlight. We'll just put T's by our tints. Here's a shadow, here's a shadow, here's a shadow, here's a tint, here's a shadow, and up here is some more tint. It says 5 different values, and I think I've got 5. Just plain white, a light gray, a medium gray, a darker gray, and then the darkest black that I have here. As dark as my pencil will go. So I have done what I need for this assignment. If you guys have questions, make sure to ask. Good luck, and I hope to see a lot of good value practice from you guys.